another episode of the Underflow Podcast with a really talented martial artist and hysterical comedian, Diego Lopez. Thank you so much for being here, dude.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here uh, in my home.
In my home, too.
Makes things a lot great.
Yeah, I was just telling you, I'm in Denver now. I'm originally from Detroit. I lived in Edinburgh, Scotland for a while. I'm about to move to Southern California, Los Angeles
Oh,
area.
cool.
But you're originally from New York and now you're based in Brooklyn?
No, I was born in New Jersey,
Oh,
but I
where?
was only here for there for like 3 years, and then we all moved to South Florida, and I was there for about almost 20 years, basically, and then I moved to New York in 2009.
Oh, word.
So I've been here for a while now.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but yeah, been here since February of 2009. Crazy.
That was a great time. That was right when I was finishing high school, and I like grew up between
Mhm.
Flint and Detroit, and like I was already spending a lot of time in Detroit, like playing in bands and stuff. So then I ended up just like the weekend I graduated, I moved to Nashville for like that summer of 2009, and that was like when hipsterdom was kind of exploding. I mean, if you moved to Brooklyn, like
Yeah,
Williamsburg was like ground zero for all of that. Like,
I moved to Bedford and North Seventh in 2009. I was in the epicenter of it all.
wow, man, that is really, really something. I got to play like some of my friends are from Brooklyn, this band called Bare Hands. They're like, they went to Westland with like MGMT and Santa Gold, and they're just a part of that whole thing. And I was always super pumped to
Mhm.
play with them when they came to Detroit. And they were always like, "Oh, Detroit is like Brooklyn. There's just no one here and no money here and nothing really happening. But there's a lot of cool people, a lot of cool music, but nothing really else."
Yeah,
You know? So, I mean, from Florida to New
yeah.
York must have been crazy. What part of Florida were you in?
It's called Broward County. It's the county literally just a little bit north of Miami,
Hmm.
where Fort Lauderdale is.
Okay,
So
right.
like, it wasn't like, I mean, for sure, it was like small town kind of feel, but it was very suburbs. Uh, Downtown Fort Lauderdale is 4 blocks, but Miami was still close enough to where you got the feeling of like a major city, and you understood culture in that sense, and you didn't feel that isolated from
For sure.
artists or innovation in any way, shape, or form. So
Right. Oh,
all these yellow cars or anything like that. A lot to get used to in terms of subway, like getting lost. That was a fun new thing.
oh my gosh, yeah. The subway still overwhelms me no matter how many times I've been like between it. Like I mean, really my first like adult experience in New York was like in 2012 when we were on tour and we played a place called Don Pedro's in Brooklyn, which is not there anymore.
I did Don Pedro's. I've done Don Pedro's.
Yeah, we got lucky. We played
What
with
a
a
piece of shit.
other band. Yeah, it was like so weird. And we were like, this is like our oasis. We were much more excited to play the Cake Shop in Manhattan the next night because I was like, oh,
I've
people
done Cake Shop as well.
right. People go to cake shop and pianos, especially back then. And then there was no one at the cake shop show in Manhattan. And then we like fucked
Ah.
up. Like we were supposed to meet with like a friend's sister to crash at her place like in Harlem. We met them in Times Square at like midnight and they just didn't we were supposed to, they didn't show up. So then we like had all our shit. Our van was back in Brooklyn, so we had to like take the subway from Manhattan to Brooklyn, but we like fucked up and got off on the wrong side of Brooklyn. So then we ended up having to like, and we were out of money by that point, so we had to like
Sure.
walk like like through Brooklyn like from like 1 in the morning to like 3 in the morning, finally get back
Jeez.
to our van. The sun's like coming up, so it was like a pretty quintessential like New York experience. But I've been to like some writers conferences there before. It's funny because I'm in the middle of writing a scene right now that takes place in Miami, and I love
Mhm.
the diaspora of Miami, and like that's, I mean, it's similar to Detroit in that way of like it's kind of like, or I imagine somewhere like Austin, Texas too, where it's like, it's really like that metropolitan area, not just the city, that whole metro area, but then outside of that, it's like good luck. I mean, it's a lot of
Sure, sure.
rural areas and lots of different beliefs. We can leave it at that. But again,
Yeah.
I'm sure, you were probably in like a really cool area with like a lot of diversity. And like you said, there's so much happening down there in terms of arts and there's good martial artists everywhere. So, you know,
That's true. When I was in South Florida, my main concern was hockey, which is it makes no sense. Um, but I that was like my first love was playing hockey,
okay.
and I played a ton of roller hockey because it was way cheaper.
Same.
Um, nice, yeah. I would spend all day like either I'd be skating around like in the neighborhood, or
Mhm.
I would skate the like 30 minutes to the outdoor rink, which is free. It's like a community, like where the soccer fields are and baseball diamond, there's a roller hockey rink.
Yep.
Spend 8 hours a day there and just like then skate home and never do homework and never care about anything other than that. Um,
And
which
so,
definitely has been the MO for my life.
so that helped you evolve into a martial artist and a comedian. Eventually, you just like left the hockey part behind and just got into the fights.
Kind of, yeah. I moved it in 2009 after I didn't go to college
Okay.
and I'd finished high school, somehow graduated. And a buddy of mine, well, actually, no, my best friend, he was, do you know Journeys? Do you know what Journeys are,
Oh
the
yeah.
shoe store?
Oh, I remember Journeys well. Yeah.
He was working at a Journeys, and I was working at a hockey shop for a couple years, like a pro shop.
Wow.
I worked alone, and like it's getting a little bit boring being alone all the time. And he's like, "Come work at Journeys." It's literally seven of our closest friends hanging out all day. So I did, and was great hanging out with my best friends. I ended up getting my own store after a couple, like 2 years. I was a manager when I was 19 or
What?
20. I think it was 20. Yeah, yeah. It was really, I didn't know that the manager that I ended up working under was known for like creating managers.
Oh,
So my best friend, Chris, he got his own store. I got my own store. We were 20, 19, 20.
dude, that's
Um,
sweet.
yeah. So it was a very like immediate turn to like adulthood in that sense of like a semblance of responsibility in the lowest uh, possible ceiling. Um, but yeah, so I did that for literally 1 year, and in that year, Chris, that same Chris, had already moved to New York, and I came to visit him on my vacation. He's awesome. He's the best guy in the world.
Mhm.
He I came to visit him on vacation, and I'm like, oh, I should be here
Yeah,
working in a fucking shoe store. Who cares? Like, it's not that's not who I want to be for the rest of my life.
sure.
And I always wanted to be a comedian, even when I was a little kid. So I moved to New York with that kind of in the back of my mind. Like, if I'm going to start, I might as well start where it's the hardest.
If you can make it
Um,
there, you can make it anywhere.
yeah. So I moved here and then got scared of doing comedy and kind of ignored it. And then
Fair.
Chris suggested I go try this kickboxing thing that some of his friends were doing so I can develop a community, get some friends going. And it's the gym I'm still at. It's the gym I teach at, Williamsburg MMA. Um, yeah, then I just started doing martial arts out of nowhere.
Dude, that's so awesome. I would love to swing by your gym and absolutely get my ass kicked sometime. It would be really informative. And
Sure.
I don't even know. I guess I've been following you maybe since the pandemic. I mean, you're
Okay.
no violence, KNOW for any new listeners. I highly
I'm
recommend.
so clever.
So I need one of those shirts so bad. Like it's just
I
so.
gotta make more. I gotta make new ones. Thank you. Thank you.
They're so, I mean, I've shown those videos to my Sifu because around in I'd always wanted to get into martial arts as well. And I finally,
Mhm.
I was out of excuses during the pandemic because I had just moved back from Scotland and I was in northern Michigan. And I met this incredible teacher. He looks totally different now because he's beat cancer since this. So he's like bald and like
Yeah.
act, like just cut. But yeah, Jim Atkins, Seafood Jim Atkins, he trained with Larry Tatum. So
Okay.
he's like, old school kung fu guy, but he knows like a little bit of everything, like Krav Maga, like blah blah, whatever. So I got
Hmm.
way up to a red belt, but then I've been moving around and everything, and it's really really inspiring to hear someone else who like actually got into martial arts like later, because I know you're a black belt. Right? I figured you've been doing
Yeah.
it since you were a kid. I didn't know you got into it like as an adult.
No, I started in 2009. I turned 22 that April, and May was my first ever class. But again, the MO of my life is that I get obsessed and sacrifice everything around my life for those things. And I've been doing it nonstop since then. So yeah, I fought MMA. I was an undefeated amateur champion in MMA. I've done some jiu-jitsu competitions. I don't really love them, but I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu,
Okay.
and I teach full time. That's my job. Um, what are you training on? What martial art is it? Kung Fu? Is that what you
Yeah,
do?
yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, I love it, dude. And he's like trained in everything. He's like, I don't even know, like almost like tw almost to his 20th degree black belt. He's like been a black belt since he was like 16, because he like,
Jesus.
yeah, I know. He like grew up in like, near the borderlands, like New Mexico, Arizona,
Hmm.
trailer park, and like, I think he like many of my students that I taught on 8 Mile in Detroit, like witnessed like parents OD and shit like that. And so
Sure. Sure.
eventually he was just like, I need structure. And so he started doing kung fu with like one of Larry Tatum's like, key homies who was there as a youngster and became like a competition fighter. And by the time he was in his 20s, he was just a fucking absolute killer. And he to winning this won this one grand championship, but he like paralyzed the guy like in the process. And he's like, I'm done. I'm done with like championship fighting. I'm only gonna teach now. And that was like when he was in his 20s, like in like
Hmm.
70s or early 80s. So then he was like in like he's still in a Journey cover band. He can like also sing his ass off.
Oh, that's awesome.
Shout out to Steve Jim Adkins. Yeah, I'm hoping to get him on the
Oh,
podcast soon. He's
oh,
super.
I hope he performs in a gi. I hope he's playing guitar in a fucking black gi with no
He
sleeves.
puts a full wig on and like everything, and it's like it's so crazy because he's like one of those martial artists. I'm sure you've met them too, who's like a Dragon Ball character, like Dragon Ball Z character in real life, who can like punch someone like across the room or like with a finger,
Uh,
like do weird like Master Roshi shit, and you're just like, oh my God, like it's so crazy people like that exist, and
yeah, yeah,
such a privilege to learn with people like that, especially when they have the patience to teach. And he's been, he teaches like little kids, and he would teach like little kids to be killer black belts by the time they're, teenagers. He has like a four-fold, approach. It's mainly kung fu, but also karate and ninjutsu, and kempo. Yeah. So, but
Eh,
it sounds like you've been doing like a little bit of everything too. Like, were you doing BJJ at first, and then you got in, kickboxing, you said.
no. So Chris misspoke. He just didn't know what Muay Thai was. So like I said, I've been with the same gym. I've been with the same instructor since I started. His name is Roger Mamedov. He's a black belt under Ricardo Almeida. He fought pro MMA. He's been doing martial arts since he was like 8. He's a very high level judo. Like he's legit as fuck. So like I started with MMA. So it's always been striking and grappling, and it's always been kind of in the idea of a cage fight.
Hmm.
Um, I'm lucky, I think, in the sense that like my I don't know my ADD, whatever that is, I get to jump around from different disciplines, and like where my interests are or enthusiasm may kind of linger with one, it'll be picked up by the other. And it'll be like really into boxing one month, and then really into no-gi, and then really into judo, and like MMA has
Hmm.
really allowed my like attention to wander in a very positive way, in a very rewarding way. But it's always been MMA.
Right. And well, that's so dope because that's what I was gonna say. It's like whatever you do, like it serves the greater purpose of MMA, and that's why I love mixed martial arts so much. And it's so funny because I feel like my Sifu had that kind of like philosophy. Like a lot of
Mhm.
comedians did. Like, I mean, Bruce Lee did. I mean, he was very like unconventional and like mashing stuff together. And obviously, I think that got through to my Sifu. So then when MMA happened, he's like, oh, it's like it's happening now, you know?
Yeah.
And it's crazy to witness. I mean, some of those fights are so brutal. And I remember showing some of your no violence like clips to my Sifu, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this guy totally gets it." Because like when you're analyzing a street fight, obviously it's totally different. And like the last thing you want is to be on the ground or like grappling, you know, like
Yeah.
and I love that your videos are hilarious, dude, but it's
Thank
also
you.
like really genuine, practical, utilitarian advice because this shit happens and like people are also dumb and start fights and like you always say is like don't fight strangers, don't get got, like you're gonna like get instant karma happen if you do that.
Mhm.
You know, like I feel like
Yeah.
so many people who are talented martial artists, you know, or get up to especially the level you're at, it's like so much about actual defense. That's why it's called self-defense. And like in that type of real world setting, you just want to protect yourself and the people you care about and make sure everybody's safe. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it's in street fights, it's like, what is there to win? Because even the winners of street fights, it's not always that. I have a friend, like everyone has that example of like, oh, they hit somebody and hit their head on the floor and they died and they went to prison. It's like, I actually have that friend. I actually have a friend who almost exactly that, except the person didn't die. He went to prison for 8 years, something like that, like a decent amount of time. And it's like, he's quite adamant. It's like, it's absolutely never worth it. He's like, I did it. I went to prison. It's not worth it.
that's
And so it's
all.
like, even if you win the street fight, there's a consequence, right? Um, and the thing that is so apparent to me now, who's someone on this side of the fence, meaning uh, I've walked into the cage, I've won cage fights, I've won jiu-jitsu matches, I teach now, like I'm on this side. Um, most street fights happen for one of two reasons. One, someone feels insulted and they don't know how to handle that emotion. Uh, Two, they're actually in danger, or someone they care about is in danger, and it's like 80% to 20 in terms of what I see of people that are insulted and they just don't know how to deal with that emotion. They don't understand. Like they can't fathom being disrespected by a stranger. It's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? It's your ego. Let it go. Just walk away.
Exactly, exactly. And that's something I feel like that's why immediately, like once I started seeing your videos, I like followed you and became a fan. And I didn't even know you were a comedian at first. I was like, oh, that makes sense because you're so like naturally funny in your delivery. But I feel like I instantly just like, you know, felt akin to you. I was like, oh, this is like a fellow city ginger who's like really in the martial arts world, but like also
Yeah.
like humility because I feel like humility is like the key to a good martial artist and a good comedian, right? And like
Yeah.
also like be like people
Good
underestimate,
person.
yeah, being a good person. And it's like also it's not just like all like brain versus brawn, like you need both. Like I feel like to be the best martial artists and the best comedians are like geniuses, you know, like actual
Mm,
intellectual masterminds, you know, like whether it's George Carlin or Bruce Lee or whatever, you know, or you know, even Chuck Norris or whatever, you know,
yeah.
whatever. The
Yeah.
original
The
ginger.
original ginger. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's a combo you really get across well, you know. So you did martial arts like help you build up your confidence to then like give comedy like a proper go?
I think so. I think I couldn't hide from it anymore. Like I kept putting things in front of it.
Mm.
And it's a strange amount of pressure where, like, a lot of people in my life had told me I should be a comedian. And, like, in in elementary school, I was voted, like, most witty. High school, I won most humorous. It's like,
Most likely
it's,
to become a comedian.
yeah, truly, it's been a big part of who I am. And then fighting. I don't even want to say it gave me the confidence. It more just put another like obstacle out of the way, and just like, yeah, it's now or never, man. And so I think my last fight was in June of 2014, I think somewhere in that neighborhood, and then my first open mic was in December of 2014. And then I did stand up for about 10 years.
Dude.
I quit recently. I quit last year, a year and a half ago, or something like that. I kind of just felt like I'd seen the road. I've seen like if I were to continue, what success would have looked like for me for the type of person and comedian I was. And I don't think I wanted that success. I didn't want to be on the road, 40 weeks out of the year alone in a hotel room.
Especially if you
I
have
didn't have,
a
yeah,
girlfriend, like it's brutal.
I don't think I had what it took in terms of both talent and um, stats, for lack of a better term, to like make it big, to be like one of the main comedians. I don't have, I don't, whatever the psychological damage you need to make you a sociopath and not care about other people's interpersonal relationships and just like claw no matter what. And there's a lot of people that I started with who are doing very, very well now. And it's like, you have that thing that I don't.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's not that the people you see on TV are the funniest. It's that they're very funny and they're capable of having some of that. Not that they all do, but a lot of them do.
Well, and like you said, I feel like um, you know, it's hard not to feel like it gets to like a sociopathic level of like sacrificing everything else for this one thing. And people, obviously, I feel like, especially our parents' generation, always did that in the case of like, oh, I have to work, Johnny. I'm sorry I never see you and we never have a relationship. I need to provide for our family.
Yeah.
It's like
My name is Diego.
But I mean, it must have been really hard to like kind of get to that point and be like, man, I love this, but like also like this isn't like you said, like end game or whatever, It sounds like you kind of came to that point with like whether it was cage fighting or, comedy on stage, which both of those things take a lot to like even get yourself to that point, let alone
Mm,
wherewithal to be like, I think I'm ready to walk away. So I salute you for that.
thanks. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey in letting go of a goal, letting go of a dream, and not feel like failure because
Yeah.
it is. I failed. I failed at the things that I set out to, but I am very happy with what I have achieved and have experienced. Is more important. Like there's a poem that apparently JFK kept in his wallet. I don't know if that's true or not, but the poem goes, bullfight critics ranked in rows crowd the enormous plaza full, but only one is there who knows, and that's the man that fights the bull. And I read that poem 15 years ago, something like that, and I realized like, oh, that's all I've ever really cared about. I just want to know what it feels like.
Mm.
I want to know what walking into a cage fight feels like. I want to know how I would react to that very unnatural situation for myself personally, because I'm not an aggressive person. I'm not a violent person. I'm not a combative or a fighting guy. Everyone I know from my childhood who has learned what I've done can't believe it. Because I'm a silly guy, you know. So I just
Yeah,
want to know what that felt like. I wanted to know what it felt like to stand on stage in front of a couple hundred people and say my ideas.
dude.
And
It's
I got to do that.
it's so difficult, both of those things, but like I've tried to like film like a stand-up set just by myself at home, like just to like you said, get my ideas out, and I couldn't even do it by myself. Like
So the hardest.
it's so difficult. Yeah, I mean, I guess
Those
having
are way harder than doing it with people, by the way.
okay, okay, okay. That makes sense. I mean, it's just like because I've
There's
playing music since I was a teenager, and like I get on stage and like sing my own songs that I wrote and everything. But especially with other musicians, you feel like you have
mhm.
backup or something, and like it's not the same as like you said, like this weird kind of raw humanity situation of just you and a microphone and people, or you in a cage with another human and one person gets to walk out. Like,
Yeah, comedy is so hard in the sense that imagine that every song you play, if the audience isn't crying, you failed.
that's it. That's
Everything I say has to elicit a a caveman response internally. Like it's so difficult in that sense. And also you have to make it seem natural and easy. I can't look like I'm trying because then I've failed.
Dude, that is so true, right? I mean, that's why I had watched Rami recently, like one of his more recent stand-ups, and I was like I'm always kind of like taken aback by the cool of like comedians because like everybody has their own style too. Like I like two of my favorites are like George Carlin and Mitch Hedberg, who are like totally
Mhm.
opposite, style. But like yeah, you have to have that like confidence. I feel like in either one of these situations that, like you said, is especially to get to like international arenas or like living off it or whatever, like some people, like some superstars do, you have to be like sociopathic with your levels of confidence, essentially.
It's such a unique and unpracticable skill set. Of like you can do an open mic, you can go and talk in front of 30 people, no big deal. Walking in front of hundreds of people and you're the only one talking. You're having a one-sided conversation with hundreds of people successfully is a magic trick. It's like I'm truly doing magic, and it's why I understand why people don't quit because it feels insane to like to do well. Like I'm lucky that I did well in a couple different big rooms. Nothing to write home about, but like hundreds of people at a time and doing well, it really feels like you're on a high wire act. And every word you take is a new step onto like, I hope the wire is there. I hope it's there. I think it's there.
It's a
It's
great
just such a
analogy.
unique feeling um, that at times I miss. But again, like I did it for a long time. I know what it feels like.
Well, and it's kind of like you just like evolve to the next stage of all of those things. Like you were doing competitions and cage fighting and all that, but now you are like you've had your black belt for a long time and you're teaching now. And same thing with comedy, you did it on the road and like on stages for hundreds of people, which must have been insane. But now you've got your podcast and like you can just like chill with homies and like, and your podcast is really funny, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, the podcast has been fun. Mike is my best friend, Mike Abruzzi. He's the funniest person alive. It's so easy. We like to say we're the best at being best friends. Um, we lived together for a very long time. He just moved out 2 months ago. He moved in
Oh,
with his girlfriend 10 minutes down the street.
wow.
Um,
That
so I
is like
see him less.
that's
Um,
I love that. That's like literally like Arnold and Gerald or like,
yeah, yeah.
BFF4L. Actually, there's a show called Detroiters, like Tim Robinson's like OG.
Love Detroiters.
And that's like them in that show.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So
Good
it's
for
been
you.
great. We've been doing it for a long time. We started before the pandemic.
That was
Then we
good.
started 2018, 2019 maybe.
Broke
But
400
yeah,
episodes. Congratulations. That's huge.
thank you. Thank you so much. I feel like it's the kind of thing I want to listen to where it's just two people who know each other really well having very silly conversations, and they occasionally have, well, not occasionally, they have guests on that they like,
Mhm.
that they know well enough to that can keep the conversation alive. We've had people on, obviously, that maybe we didn't know that well, and just like we asked, and maybe they, whatever. And it's like, oh, it does change the dynamic. But then sometimes we have guests who, like our last episode with Patrick from Pod About List, he's great. He is the third one of us where it's like the conversation never dulls. It just gets sillier and sillier and sillier.
That's
So yeah, the pod's been very good for that.
That's super dope. Yeah, I like almost instantly, like once I realized, like you said, like how close you guys are and like how you guys can just essentially say anything and riff and it's like it works. It reminded me of the It's Always Sunny podcast because like those guys are obviously
Two wars.
dude, it's two wars. Oh,
Yeah.
dude, it's so good. I mean, it's so funny too because I run like a revolutionary memes meme account, Instagram.com/time for revolution 9. And I've been meeting so many cool people. Like I befriended this musician, Unknown Mortal Orchestra, who's like one of my favorite musicians.
Okay.
and just random people, and the amount of quality like sunny memes that are coming out like relating to every issue. It's like I'm like learning key things from the news cycle through insane It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia memes about,
Sure.
which is just, I guess, kind of just says a lot about our generation. But, I feel like you're very like in vogue at a time where like, nothing you're doing seems trendy. It just seems really like natural. And like, I feel like there's so many podcasts out there and just like people doing like what we're doing. And it's like so cringy, And I
Mm,
really, really try to fight against that. And I feel like you guys
sure.
did such a good job with that. So I got to give it to you as
Thank you.
token of just like the authenticity is like really real. And like I was listening to an episode, you guys were just like talking about Mad Men, and I couldn't
Oh, dude.
for one of the guest, he was so funny too, but he didn't know like instantly you were talking about that movie, The Warriors. And I was like, this is like
Uh,
favorite movies. How do like and you were like, come on,
oh,
guys,
crazy.
like Warriors? Like, and they were like, what are you talking about? I was like,
Like,
dude,
it's a huge movie.
huge. Like, yeah, even God, I just watched the Diddy doc. That's a whole rabbit hole. I mean, the between the Puffy shit and the Epstein shit and like the wars, it's like, whoa. I mean, that documentary, it seems like it proves that P. Diddy like actually killed Tupac and Biggie. And like, which is crazy. I mean, like, it seems like there's like evidence that P. Diddy was working with like East Coast Crips and blah 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 blah. But like at one point, they like I think 50 Cent was the one who like made the documentary, and he used like they like made a video back in the day. I want to say it's for the Craig Mack remix of Flava in Your Ear that had big,
Okay.
and they like did the remix and made a new video. And at the beginning, P. Diddy's like doing the thing with the bottles, but he's like instead of Warriors, he's like bad
Yeah.
boys come out.
Yeah.
They kept like playing that clip, but like now, like it's not cool. It's like super creepy. Like he like is like that's the villain of the movie who does that. And now, like in that context, seeing Diddy do it, you're like, ooh,
Yeah.
like
It
crazy.
all comes full circle.
Like
He knew what he was doing.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I didn't know he originally got famous from like a charity event he threw that like people died. Like it seems like one of these ritual sacrifice things that these creepy billionaire people are emailing about in the Epstein.
Wow.
Thing, which is super creepy. But you had said
Well,
something also that I didn't know like until recently that the Warriors is it Odyssey or the Iliad, one of the Homer.
yeah, it's the Odyssey. I didn't know that. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Does make a lot of sense actually. Yeah, I like Christopher Nolan. Like I would say he's probably one of my favorite like filmmakers. So I'm excited for his new movie, even though I don't think Matt Damon would have been my first choice, but it's what it is. I mean, it's not that Matt Damon's bad. I feel like the Matt Parker and Trey Stone just like ruined Matt Damon for our whole generation.
Oh, okay, yeah, I get that.
Damon, like the
Very what regular internet would consider a generic guy. And he's unbelievably talented and handsome, but sure, he's a generic guy.
I've been like, I started teaching high school when I was young, like, I was like 20, started teaching on 8 Mile, and then I, moved all over, was teaching English as a second language, was doing like corporate sellout, copywriting, bullshit,
Mhm.
back into teaching again. And it's so crazy, like meeting teenagers and college kids now who like they don't know Chappelle Show or like they don't know Robin Williams. Like they don't know, you know what I mean? Like just weird shit. And I was showing them Goodwill Hunting. And I was like, and some of my like students, like teenage kids were like crying because they'd never seen parts of Goodwill Hunting. And they were like, this is Matt Damon. I was like, this is why he's famous. And they were like, it all makes sense now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's like when I first watched 12 Angry Men like 5 years ago, I was like, this fucking movie's unbelievable. Hey, this movie everyone talks about being great is really good. And you're like, yeah,
Yep.
dumbass. It's like
Yeah.
why famous. But
The
like I feel it's so interesting in the sense of like teenagers nowadays because their celebrities are celebrities for such a short period of time, and they're famous for not really having any actual talent. They're famous often for being very annoying alone or being very annoying around other people. It's such a strange um, old man yells at the clouds kind of a thing, but it's such a I never would have guessed this is what kids would be into.
It's
It's such a
so
strange.
it's really strange, especially because I'm just finishing up grad school, so I'm about to be like professor qualified. So I've been teaching like juniors and seniors, or like really advanced, like 16-year-olds, like creative writing and stuff like that. And it's so
Mhm.
interesting to see kind of what they're into because it's like I feel like kids like they see everything binary now, maybe because of the internet, because of like talking heads, and like dudes like us don't exist like to them. Like it's literally like
Sure.
you are only LGBTQ or you are like Ben Shapiro or like Tucker Carlson or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nick Fuentes or what, and and like I feel like back in our day it was not like it wasn't like a moral crisis to like watch a Joe Rogan episode. He had like people talking about psychedelics or like Terrence McKenna's brother or like things that I cared about. And now it's like, oh my gosh, like Palantir owns everything, or the PayPal mafia is like paying guests to be on Joe Rogan, and it's just like
Yeah.
and it's really, really sad to see young men, especially it's because often straight, young, white boys who feel totally excluded. And so they feel like they need to go into this like alt-right pipeline or whatever. And I mean, maybe you could comment on this better because I'm so curious about like someone like you. What's your take on like the fucking the Paul brothers? What are their names or what like the YouTuber and
Jake and Logan. Logan?
so what?
Luke. Logan.
Yeah, and this is like what you're talking about. It's like these people are like come out of nowhere. They're super famous, and then they like either get canceled or they like pivot to politics or like become like a right
Yeah.
Nazi or whatever.
It's uh it's the attention economy, right? And then being able to like kind of like marionette puppet people's hate towards them and use that for economic benefit, right? So it's like it was very apparent that them moving into boxing was them seeing Mayweather at the tail end, oh, last 10 years of his career, and just being like, oh, people pay to watch me lose, maybe lose. But unfortunately, Mayweather is probably the greatest boxer. Like he's unbelievably good defensively. He is good offensively, but he just doesn't get it. It annoys me in the same way that Oscar De La Hoya post career annoys me, where it's like even George Foreman, like regular people see this retired version of the fighter and kind of don't give like due credit to the skill set they developed. Oscar De La Hoya was so fucking good. George Foreman is one of the scariest people that's ever lived, but everyone just sees him as a smiling preacher who sells panini presses, and they just like, oh, there's no way you were serious because now you're not.
You
And it's like
named
that's
all your
not.
children George. Like who does that?
Yeah. So like the Paul brothers are just really good at playing the emotions, and again, knowing that no one's really going to consider them the heroes other than 13-year-old boys who hate everyone because they don't understand themselves. They don't understand that having empathy is actually a strength, not a weakness. So it's interesting to see where they're going to go, where they can keep
Hmm.
hiding from culture in a sense. Like they moved away from just straight on vlogging because of specifically the Japanese suicide force thing,
Oh my
and then
God.
they move into boxing. And it's like, all right, I mean, Duke, credit where credit's due. They've worked their asses off.
Became a good
Like
boxer.
he has put the time in. I'm not disrespecting his skill set or the effort because fighting is one of the few things you can't really buy.
Right.
You have to put the time in. Yes, you can buy better training. You could buy better equipment. You don't have to work, so you can spend more of your time training. You could buy steroids, obviously. Um,
And he got like almost as good as you can get, but then rightfully, like karmically, got his jaw shattered, right? So,
yeah. But taking a challenge that not a lot of people would have taken.
like you
So it's
said,
like
credit there
I
too.
think there's this cultural issue where if we dislike someone politically, then whatever they do, they're bad at it, and that's not. I think that does us a disservice as a culture.
Hmm.
Um, Jake Paul sucks as a person. He's an all right boxer, but
Right.
he has taken some fucking risks.
Hmm.
I don't love him, but I do have to admit that, and I think it'd be unfair to act as if he hadn't because I don't agree with how
Right.
he traverses the earth.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way about the champ. I mean, I feel like a lot of people feel that way about the Tyson. Like the Tyson. Mike Tyson's a complex, character, and I feel like he's obviously tried to make do. Like he's like, I don't know if he's like spiritual, but he's like selling weed products and very like talking about DMT all the time now. But yeah, I mean, again, one of the scariest human beings who ever walked the face of the earth at one point. I mean, just absolutely like terrifying. Like did you watch the semi-recent, like, I think it was like a Hulu show, like about Tyson? Like it was like a biopic show. Um,
Like fictional, like it was
it was good.
dramatized,
It had
not a documentary.
right, right. It had, I think it was Harvey Keitel played Cruz D'Amato. So that was like cool in itself, And the actor who played Mike did great. But yeah,
Oh, it was the guy who was in the one of the newer Purge movies. I remember seeing something about it.
I haven't
Who
seen those.
was like surprisingly good in the shitty movie.
Right. He was so good as
I can't
Tyson.
remember
I'm
his name.
like, this dude deserves to be famous as fuck. Like actually, like it's like when someone is so talented, like I feel like Oscar Isaac or like, when I just saw this really cool picture of Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan on like working together in every single film they've done. And it's like, man, like if you were saying like about your best friend Mike, right? Like if you have a best friend like that, like there's so much you can accomplish actually. Like
Oh yeah,
Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan made each other two of the most famous people on earth, and like
yeah.
worked their asses off to get that way, and they didn't pull any punches. And like I loved what you said about like fighting is something you can't fake, and I feel like that's also what drew me to it. Like what you had said earlier about like the idea of getting in the ring with someone or getting in a cage with someone is just like the raw humanity of that is like you can't like talk your way out of it, you can't lie your way out of it. Like there's nothing else but like to do. And I feel like that, like you said, maybe it's our like ADD or whatever. Like I love that idea of getting fixated on something where it's like a web of interrelated things. And I feel like that's like the gift that keeps on giving with martial arts is just like it's an endless rabbit hole, I mean, just from like being obsessed with Jackie Chan as a child, and
Yeah.
as becoming like an actual martial artist, you're like, holy shit, like it just makes you appreciate it more and more and more and more.
No, for sure. It is. It's been such a different amount of things for me as I've done it. Chris Howder, who was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, one of the first 12 Americans to get their black belt. He's fascinating. Anything he says, I'll try and listen to. But he talks about how there's three pillars in jiu-jitsu, and the way he says is you should think street, train sport, and practice the art. So wherever you are in your experience, going in that order, I think is very beneficial. Where it's like if you just started, you should be cognizant to what the skill set you're developing to be used in a self-defense scenario where there's no rules. It may not be one-on-one. You don't know what their intentions are.
Mhm.
Then being able to graduate past that and go, okay, now let's think about the sport versus the sport, jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu via, or instead of jiu-jitsu versus the ignorant. And that's different. The rules change a little bit. Not only do the rules change, but like how you do things. It's no longer catching someone who's making a mistake. It's can you catch someone who's doing the right thing
Mm,
technically. That's where it becomes a lot more interesting. And then practice the art where I'm moving into is moving beyond rules, moving past victory, moving
right.
beyond the idea of just trying to do techniques properly, but trying to find a new truth or try to find a new thought, which I know sounds really kind of woo woo and a little arbitrary or vague, but it's just kind of how it feels at this stage for me. And this has been the most fun I've had really training.
Right. I mean, that's again, it's like the gift that keeps on giving because there's no top, there's no bottom. Like
Mm.
you can never know like too much. You can like, you will never know everything there is to know about martial arts. Like, and it does, I feel like, get like weirdly spiritual. Like it, and I think that's like the really cool thing about especially people who like are from the street and like someone like Tyson who like took up, fighting like just because of like his life circumstances and like being working class and oppressed and like being bullied and blah 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 and then being in prison and meeting Cruz and becoming super famous. I think no matter like what the type of fighter is, like the longer you do it, if you're really dedicated to it, it just ultimately becomes spiritual because it becomes like harnessing this like unity between like your like mind, body, like spirit complex. And like you said, it's similar to like that like flow state or whatever, which you can achieve during fighting or like obviously super uber athletes like Michael Jordan achieve it, or like you were saying, even if you're like crushing it like on stage when you're doing comedy, like you like get that point and like you feel like you're flying, or like you're on a
Mhm.
tightrope that might collapse at any moment. But
Mhm.
I've been there like playing music too, where you're like so locked in and the audience is locked in and like everybody's like moving like as one organism or something. And you can get in that like flow state. And I feel like when you like it's like the whole like 10,000 hours to mastery thing, right? It's like if you like really like put that time in and that dedication, you get there, like you're gonna start experiencing almost like weird like psychedelic, like supernatural phenomena. I feel like that, yeah, that was something I wanted to ask you about too. Like your thoughts on so many fighters, like again, at that level, especially like you get better and better. A lot of those guys get really into psychedelics, like ayahuasca or DMT or acid or mushrooms or peyote or 5-MeO, Bufo, Alvarez, like
Mhm.
and I feel like there's got to be like a connection between that too, because like you said, it's like you're pushing your body as far as you can go, and in order to continue to push yourself physically, you have to like reach a new like point, like mentally or therefore spiritually, like so you don't reach a plateau. So yeah, I mean, have you like discussed with any of your MMA buddies like the psychedelic revolution into fighting?
Not much. It's more to me. It seems like to be good at martial arts, to be good a good fighter, humility obviously is a huge part of that. But a part of humility is the constant checking back into your own arsenal and questioning what am I lacking? Where do I need attention? Where should I put more effort? And I think any person who is asking questions of themselves sooner or later gets to the point of I keep asking from this one, let's say, perspective, this one alignment of perspective that I am quote unquote stuck in. It's just my conscious mind that is not being toyed with in that way. So what am I missing out on, either above or below or around? I don't know. I don't know. That I could be asking more questions slash feeling new things.
Right.
So I just think that's a standard or understandable like alignment of a line of reasoning to just kind of get there after years of being introspective. And I think like I said, to be a good fighter, I think you have to be introspective. To be a good artist in any way, shape, or form, you have to keep going within and finding things that you may have not seen in the past or you didn't want to see in the past. You weren't ready to tackle. You didn't have the skill set to deal with yet. Um, a simple example is like when you start doing comedy, you start writing down things that you think are funny or could be funny. And it's funny how often I've gone back and looked at things from year one that I was right. There was something funny there. I didn't have the skill set to really show what that was on stage. And time became the factor there, right? Experience and time. Psychedelics, I think, can change that time, change that perspective. But as someone who has never done them, I don't think I wouldn't want to hear someone's opinion about something they've never done. So I kind of try to avoid
Fair.
that conversation. Honestly, out of respect, my buddy Zeus,
Love
who
that.
you should talk to, Zeus used to run Middle Easy, which was the like my when I first started the best MMA website because they were very culturally interesting. They love Dragon Ball Z and weird anime and cool movies, and they were just very anti MMA in the like dumb jock bullshit.
Sure,
They're
right,
very
right.
cool. And Zeus is now studying. I think he's in the Netherlands doing his master's in psychedelic work, and he does like all sorts of crazy stuff. He would be someone that'd be phenomenal to talk to about this because that's what he's doing. And I've never smoked weed. I haven't had a drink since 2009. I don't do that stuff. I don't have any judgment towards it, lying. But I don't want to give an opinion where someone be like, "What the fuck do you know?" Like, I don't. I truly don't know.
And again, back to your humility, I really, really appreciate that. And it's also great that you said that because a lot of like, I run like a small record label. It's just more of like an indie label of homies and
Uh,
collective, homies helping homies. And a lot of our artists are sober or have been in the process of getting sober or like, clean from various things. And I feel like so much of our generation really needs to be aware of that. Like I had a friend who was just talking about like, yeah, like I can't even smoke weed because like I'll never stop smoking weed. Like, like people
yeah,
can't like have like one drink or whatever. And he was making the point, he's like, also like the sanctioned drugs too, like well, not just big pharma, but like coffee and like, tobacco and like all these things, and like a lot of my sober friends especially are like, oh, like coffee is my like demon now, and like and it's really interesting because and I think that also gets back to like discipline, like you are like at such a level of a fighter of like it's only going to hinder you like doing substances of like any kind pretty much and especially
here's what I'm sorry, but I'll disagree in the sense that I
yeah,
don't know that. I assume that, but it's an assumption I'm willing to make.
right,
I
on the
have to,
air of caution and health, right?
yeah, I'm erring caution. Again, I haven't had a drink in a long time. Do I think I really had a problem? I don't know. At this point, honestly, I don't give a shit. I'm very happy with my my lifestyle. I'll say, and but it's I don't think it's fair to put these like universal truths on. It's like I am better because who knows? Maybe if I was drinking, I would have been meeting more people that could have helped me in X, Y, and Z. Like I don't think it's healthy to always act as if every action I've made that is positive is only because of that. It couldn't have been positive in the other way. It only is positive in this way.
Right.
I just don't think that's a fair way to look at life.
That's again, I'm astounded by your humility and your healthy perspectives too, because I feel like that's like so lacking, especially in our country right now. It's just like people, I have like bad relationships with like old friends or like family members who are like those types of people who are like they can't be wrong or like their way is the
Sure.
way or whatever. And I feel like that's so unhealthy because that goes back to like learning, like how are you supposed to learn and like everything you've been talking about is really like about like evolution. Like you said, like just becoming a good person, just actively trying to be a better person, and
Yeah.
and again, it's like I love you guys were talking about Mad Men and like, really good literature, books, shows, whatever. I feel like they exist to show you characters in situations making decisions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great like Kendrick lyric about like like that's like what life is about like God puts us on earth and like puts a soul in us and gives us a body and like lets us run around and like make decisions and like live with it and I feel like that's so much about what you're saying too is like it's not fair to pass judgment on other people's like decision until you walk a mile in someone else's moccasins like type of thing but I
Sure.
also think it's really dope that you're teaching people and you're kind of like living as an example of like, you don't have to be like sober, quote unquote, but like chances are like you will excel, more and more like if you focus on one thing or another, like you said, like you really like started to focus on martial arts. You really started to focus on comedy because you cared. And then you naturally start to excel, and I feel like that's what I'm always trying to teach like young people is like if you care about something and you put time into it, like you could make that your whole life or your career. Like there's no one like who really like is telling you you can't do X, Y.
Mhm.
unless you're trying to be like a rapist or a murderer or something twisted like that, you know. Well, apparently those people run the world now, so I
Yeah.
what do I know? But
But I
but
think there's something to be said about unbridled enthusiasm and effort, where someone who is accomplished in whatever kind of avenue you're interested in, they are also that and they can see that in you. And when they see that in someone, they want to nurture that, they want to encourage that because they know how hard it is. And they know that how much it would have meant to them for someone to give them even, you know, a word of encouragement, an opportunity, a connection to someone else. I was lucky enough to talk to one of my heroes in his home recently, only because I was just very enthusiastic and knowledgeable about the thing, about boxing, and he could see it. And he goes, "Oh, you're for real. You really do care. Okay, cool. Well, come by. We'll talk."
right.
And if I was like worried about not being super, like not being looking cool, like aloof about it,
Mhm.
you wouldn't have been able to see that kind of sparkle of enthusiasm. And that's I'm so like proud of myself for constantly moving in front of people that I respect and kind of like bearing my soul and be like, I really care about this.
Mhm.
I don't care if other people in the room think that I am lame or think that it's cringy to be impressed by someone I look up to. I really care. Does this matter to you? And a couple times it's worked in my favor, but I don't do it to get an advantageous positioning or anything like that. I do it because I think it's important.
Right.
It's important to show people that have meant something to you that they meant something to you.
Mhm.
I just think it's a good way to live your life and a good way to like reward another person who has sacrificed a lot for something you care about.
Mhm.
To see that, I think it's cool. I just think it's fucking cool. I think it's really cool.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, I mean, especially obviously like the whole world's been hurting so much like in the last few years and like since the pandemic and everything going on right now. And my mom passed away 2 years ago last Christmas, so like 2.5 years.
I'm so sorry to hear that, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very quick. She got ALS, which now again, it's all in the Epstein emails that like COVID, the vaccines, all of it doesn't matter. Like it was all like designed like for profit and like they were trying to give people Alzheimer's and ALS specifically. That's why those cases are like skyrocketing since COVID.
Jesus.
Like it's so fucked up. And yeah, my mom got ALS and she died within like a year and it was like absolutely horrible and devastating. And I feel like the
So
one
sorry.
thing, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it totally shattered my family. When you just like watch someone like lose all
Yeah. Yeah.
changes you. And I feel like the one thing with death that like people always say is like, oh, like it makes you realize like we all die and like you better do what you fucking want to do because you're gonna die, you know? And like I feel like everybody, you know, especially, you know, our parents' generation, like, you know, they told us, like, get a job, like, get married, like, you know, have a family, like, keep your career, like, do the one thing, pick a location, like, do, you know, and it's like, there's no manual, like you were saying, there's no, like, you know, right way to live your life. And so you really have to try and make the decisions that will make you happy because, like, you never know when you're gonna go. Like, life's a bitch and then you die. That's why we
Yeah.
so, you know, it's really a weird world to be in right now, but I think like you said, taking those small steps to try and evolve on your own and like develop your own character like means the world to even a stranger that you might interact with like randomly, you know, let alone
Mm.
people like us who are actually teaching young people or teaching people of any ages, you know, like having that humility and like that authenticity, like you said, I think that's really fucking cool. Like when people have that unbridled enthusiasm and that dedication to like put the work in, I feel like that's like when we've achieved the greatest things on this planet, you know, instead of destroying it or whatever, is when we help each other and kind of like through that authenticity, you know, it's like David Foster Wallace, that famous author who sadly took his own life. He had this whole theory that like culture, we're being like dumbed down by like the propaganda of like, whatever it is, television, just being everything being readily accessible and easy. And like now it's internet and AI, but then like in the 90s, it was just like TV and like reality TV and blah, blah, blah. And David Foster Wallace had this whole thing about how like irony is going to be the death of us all because if everybody's just trying to be like smug and like cool and like aloof like you said and like not giving a fuck like what are we doing, where are we going, and like he was kind of like bemoaning Generation X because he's like, Gen X, the whole thing has been apathy, and like look at where that's fucking gotten us, and he's like there's key people who of Gen X who were the coolest of their generation, like let's say Kurt Cobain and Tupac, two examples. They were arguably the coolest of their generation because they were real as fuck and they were cool as fuck because they were honest and open and they were willing to talk about like yeah like I'm a man, like a tough guy, I'm a cool dude. I cry, like I have trauma, like I am fucked up inside, like I don't agree with what's happening in the world. Like instead of just being like, nope, like status quo, I'm gonna be cool and like no, like it's cool to care about things, like you said.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. It's hopefully it's a thing where every next generation rebels against the prior, and they rebel more against empathy, rebel hopefully more against whatever, all of it. But it doesn't seem like it's hard to care and have empathy when your attention is tiny.
Yeah.
And that's they have done such a good job of ruining our attentions, man.
You
Our
said it
ability to
earlier.
focus,
It's
our ability to be alone with our thoughts and stretch and poke and prod at ideas and beliefs we think we have and question our own beliefs and question our morality, question our ethics, question our stance in places where if you're inundated with information and entertainment, you don't really get that luxury. And I use that word very purposefully, of giving yourself a chance to think. Um, but who knows?
That's some deep shit, man. I really appreciate like everything that you stand for and are talking about. And you said it earlier, it's like we live in the attention economy nowadays. And I think it's really important. Like if people start looking at it like where you invest your time, where you invest your attention, like how you spend your money, like where you're spending your money, like who you're giving
Sure.
it to, like all these like little things, like they are like it's like everything like we study, they talk about like chi or ki or whatever. And I feel like there's something to that like human force, like the anima or like whatever, like our energy, and it's like I there's this term they call it loosh sometimes, Loosh, like our energy, our attention, like they're like getting everything from us, like you said, like they like I guess
Yeah, yeah,
like the Silicon Valley, like tech bro, billionaire, Epstein, pedo people. That's like why they're trying to start like a billionaire only society in Greenland, like surrounded by data centers. That's like why Trump is like pushing for Greenland or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think like you said, it's like we have to be careful about like who we're giving what, and I feel like
sure.
you had mentioned like maybe even before we started filming like this idea of like you know having your defenses up, like being aware of what's around you, but also being open and like having that kind of like, I mean, I love the Tao Te Ching and Lao Tzu, and that's all about like paradox and like, like holding two opposites at the same time.
Yeah. I don't love the idea of walking around with like emotional walls because of fear, and good fear in the you have a good point, or you have the right to be fearful,
Right.
but still choosing to unsheath these weapons and stand there and be like, no, I'm not. I'm gonna let myself. If I get hurt, I get hurt, but I don't want to live a life of fear in that sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess two books. This is like my favorite. I'm in the Jack Kerouac school, so I've been studying poetry, which usually makes me cringe, but some poets are like life-changing, like this guy, Tom
Sure.
Eisen Martin, and he was like the poet laureate of San Francisco for a while. And ironically, now he's in Detroit with his baby. But he has like a great line, that's like one of his like key lines that's like unclench the fist, like walk away. Like,
Mhm.
especially being, BIPOC in today's world, I feel like that's like one of the most like evolved like things you could ever possibly do is like, for your own evolution is like let go of the anger, which brings me to this book. I'm sure you've like encountered, the book The Five Rings by the incredible Miyamoto Musashi. Yeah, I was just gonna say like this is like the mo like I see this tattoo and when I see it, I'm like that person fucking gets it, man.
Well,
Like for sure.
yeah, my first entry into like martial arts content was when I was a blue belt. I made a blog called Walking Alone NYC, which is based on Musashi's rules to live by that he gave his students called The Way of Walking Alone. I'm a big fan.
Dude, it's just like, yeah, I mean, everything you've been talking about is that kind of like, like, of course we have fear, like, because we're gonna die, but like, he has that whole like key, like, core concept of like, if you can just like defeat the fear of death, like, you can do anything. And like,
Yeah.
like walking alone and like walking the path. I mean, all the stories, like I always think about the story of him showing up late to psych out his opponent, and then just like with the is that with the oar? Is that the same story where he beat him with the
It's two different stories. There's
Okay.
the one where he psyched them out, the brothers, by being late, and the one where he carved a sword out of an oar. Um, yeah, it's very cool.
Dude. And the one guy who thought he was unbeatable because he had I forget what it's called, like the knives on the chains. Those things are crazy.
Yeah,
And like Musashi just like got his main sword tangled up and just like got out his sidearm and just like what, bro? Like just
yeah.
like the path of least resistance, like the simplest answer, like your most intuitive, like gut feeling like that. Those are there for a reason, and I feel like that's, again, kind of what you're talking about. It's like hard to like listen to your gut or like trust your intuition, especially in a world that's like they want to monopolize your attention and like, get you like financially and like everything. Like we have to be, it's like that's why I would love Terrence McKenna, and he always said like culture is not your friend. And but it's like I feel like people like you and I like also like love elements of culture, like like music,
Absolutely.
like Mad Men,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
and like and that's what I was saying earlier is like I want to believe that there's like redeeming qualities to like art, for example. Like we're supposed to learn from it. I want to believe in the best stuff like Sopranos or Mad Men or like whatever. Like you can learn, there's lessons to learn there. And I'll see stuff like from like Miyamoto Musashi or like Lao Tzu or like whatever, like basic like tenets of martial arts like pop up like through kind of philosophical discourse in other ways. Like I feel like these are timeless lessons, and I think it's always like really ironic, like you said, that there's kind of this like view of maybe like UFC or MMA or whatever, of like these like dumb like gym rat bros or whatever, but like you said, there's this whole other community, and like especially for people our age, I feel like it's like growing where it's like, man, yeah, you'll have to introduce me to your friend Zeus. And what did you
Yeah,
say the website is?
he sold it, so it's not what it used to be. So don't even worry about
Cool. Good for
it.
good for him.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, he
that's
did
dope.
very well, and it's not the same without him, obviously. But Zeus is the man. I'll send you his info.
Oh yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, and obviously we'll have to connect IRL next time I'm in New York, or if you're gonna be
Sure.
in LA anytime in the next year. My girlfriend and I are moving out there, so you know.
Very cool. It's great over there.
Yeah, I mean warmer, for people like us who like grew up in like cold. Well, I don't know, you were also in Florida forever
I
too.
was in Florida. I was warm as hell.
Yeah, that's so I mean, was that really hard to give up?
No, I had enough of it. You get attracted to the idea of seasons. You're like, oh, that's cool.
And
Makes you appreciate it more.
I feel like you're such a cool dude because you're so balanced in all those ways. And obviously that's like another tenet of martial arts too, is like, the yin and the yang and like finding that.
Yeah.
But I feel like you really embody that, dude. And I really
I
appreciate your time. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say, but I'm just stoked we finally did this and we
yeah, it took a while.
on St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Oh wow, all right.
Fuck the colonizers, but we're here. We made it.
We're here.
Yeah, I mean, especially like you, especially. I feel like you have it double the conquistadors and the British colonizers. Well, I guess I don't know which flavor ginger. Yeah, but
I'm apparently we did some searching because I'm Colombian. Um, Apparently, if you go far back enough, we're Lebanese.
hey,
I don't know
hey,
what's that. I didn't know they had redheads, so I don't know what's going on. But yeah,
yeah.
I
I mean,
appreciate.
where I grew up in Michigan, like, my mom's side is like the Fitzgerald side. They, came over during the Civil War, like straight Irish. But my dad's side, like he probably should have grown up like on a reservation, but like, their whole area was just colonized. So he didn't even know like what like tribe. I still don't know like what tribe we are. It's either Ojibwe or Potawatomi. So there's like a kind of like an alliance called the Anishinaabe, like three tribes of like that area of Canada,
Oh, okay.
the Midwest and the Great Lakes region. So usually, like, it's interesting because, like, obviously I'm super ginger and like I like appear white even though I don't identify that way. And like once in a while, like I was working at Buffalo Wild Wings on like 8 Mile once, like when I was finishing up college, and I worked with this really cool native dude named Two Crows and this other girl who was also mixed race, African American, Native American, and both of them one day they were like, "Yo, Adam, you're indigenous," and I was like, yes, but like no one ever says that to me because like I'm so like white redhead look.
Sure.
And I was like, how did you know? And they're like, it's your teeth, like in crazy canines, I guess is like
Oh,
way. And so that's like how like people like from different tribes will identify each other even now, which I love that because there shouldn't be gatekeeping in any community, and like we're all in this together, and we've both been in diverse places and diasporas, and I'm just like glad you're out there in the world like teaching people and like putting this shit out there like with humor and humility. Maybe that'll be the name of this episode.
thanks, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
for your time. Yeah,
Of
and
course.
hopefully I'll see you sometime in New York or in LA. So,
Sounds good, brother. I
thank
appreciate your time.
you. I appreciate you, brother.
See you, bud.
Brothers and sisters,